And now a national security attorney, among other things, in defense cases under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Kevin, if he had stopped where he was right in that clip, would he still be facing 6 charges?
I think he would be okay and should be okay if he'd stopped with the first post. The first post, which got so much attention, he called for accountability, which may be uncomfortable to hear, but that's not illegal. But the subsequent posts, which he was ordered not to make, which is a lawful order, veered off into the territory of calling for revolution. And you simply can't do that as a serving uniformed officer.
So he spent a couple of days in the brig. He's now been let out. So far, he hasn't posted, as far as we know, once he got out. But this is a second video that he put up after that order that you pointed out.
I have a growing discontent and contempt for my perceived ineptitude at the foreign policy level, and I want to specifically ask some questions to some of my senior leaders.
Yeah, I don't think, you don't get to, as a lieutenant colonel, ask questions to senior leaders and show contempt, do you?
No, and the word contempt is loaded because that is one of the punitive articles in the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He certainly could have written Congress, he could have written an inspector general, but he wasn't allowed to do what he did in uniform on active duty in that video, in which he also solicited money for himself.
Yeah, that was another part of this, is that there were some Facebook posts that really kind of veered into the wild part of things. Let me ask it this way. Is there another way to have dealt with this, in that what he did was wrong, but maybe he doesn't need to go to jail?
Absolutely. The thing that stood out to me from the first post is that he had just heard that one of his former subordinates was killed in that terrible attack in Kabul, and he was obviously and understandably bereaved. And I think this should have been dealt with in a compassionate way. It might not be tenable for him to continue to stay in a leadership position in the Marine Corps, but as a fellow veteran, I think he should have been dealt with from a more gentle and humanitarian point of view than dealing with it as a law enforcement or disciplinary problem alone.
And it seems as though the reciprocity multiplier just kept going up. He said things, and then leadership decided they were just going to kind of finally show him, and evidently they threw him in jail. Hey, Kevin, always a thoughtful analysis of these things. We appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, Leland.
All right, great to see you. Thank you. Up next, potential war with China.